guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special one. You know how much I love my eyeshadow palettes, and today we're going to talk about my top eyeshadow palette recommendations for Thanksgiving. When I think of Thanksgiving, I think of like yummy, warm tone shades with like a hint of like burgundy or a few like green tones, something that feels cozy and warm. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I have like close to between 10 to 15 palettes. I think it's 12 or 14, I don't know. We'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it. But yes, if you are ready to see and hear me talk about some eyeshadow palettes, then please keep on watching. It's a mix of old palettes as well as brand new palettes. So we're gonna start with an oldie, but I feel like when I think of Thanksgiving, this is the first luxury eyeshadow palette that comes into my mind, and I'm talking about McGrath, and this is the Bronze Seduction palette. This just gives me all the vibes that I'm looking for in Thanksgiving. I love to wear these like burgundy tones with these reds and like topping it off with that glimmery shade, or even if it is that these shades, it's so very pretty. But let me show you this red and this glittery shade. Maybe this green too. Oh my god. Am I gonna swatch everything? I don't wanna. I don't wanna. Okay. But let me show you how yummy these shades are. Like, look how beautiful and sparkly and smooth and dimensional these shadows are. This definitely stands the test of time. Bronze Seduction has been in my collection for a long time, and I often dip into it, especially for my office looks too. My favorite thing to do with this palette is I dip into this shade and this shade very regularly, and then I pick out my single eyeshadows and I top it on top of that, and it every time feels different because it's so versatile. I love this palette. So that was our first palette. Let's also talk about Natasha Denona. Now, there are two palettes, one a face palette and one more of an eyeshadow palette, but these palettes just jump out to me when I think of Thanksgiving. First is the Natasha Denona My Dream palette. This is such a beautiful palette. I love the warm tones, the burgundies, the multi-chrome that is inside this palette. It is truly amazing. You get all the warmth from this side and you get all the coolness from this side, and it has, this multi-chrome shade has my heart. It is so very pretty. Definitely this is like my most used palette from Natasha Denona, I would say. This is just amazing. But I also wanted to talk about a face palette which I have used a ton, and I feel like this is a palette where I use everything and I feel so very pretty. I'm talking about the Glam Eye and Face palette, the deeper version. This is so yummy for every day, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for New Year's. This is absolutely stunning. You can see the wear and tear that is happening in this palette, and that's because I use this so very much. I love everything about this palette. This has some cream tones which is like protected by the lid, but these eyeshadows also is absolutely stunning. So definitely want to talk about this. Okay, now let's talk about some indie palettes, because you know how much I love my indie palettes. So talking about It's Belle Cosmetics, I wanted to talk about their Pixie Grove palette. This palette is yummy, like so pretty, especially for Thanksgiving. It's so nice. Like, you have those warm tones, the orangey, the burgundy, the green tones, the olivey tone. It's so very pretty. Let me show you a few shades. Isabella, then take this, maybe this shade. And this gives a lot of variety of texture. I'm only swatching like shimmers, but also the mattes in this palette is so pretty. And it has a mix of textures, like some really sparkly tones, but also some smooth metallics. Look at that. Look at the shift in the shine. It is so pretty. Let me swatch that burgundy too, because that's so pretty. And I've done like a dedicated video on that palette. It is such an amazing palette. Like, look how stunning that is. Love it. Absolutely love that palette. I feel like It's Belle Cosmetics is one makeup brand that keeps their prices pretty low but gives us such amazing quality eyeshadow palette. I love them so very much. You know how much I love their, Break the Rules palette, the Flare Collection Remixed palette, their all matte palette that's like a rainbow palette. I love this. I have their cool summer. I have a ton from them. And for a reason, like they don't do affiliate codes, but I'll link it in the description box below for you guys how to get to this brand, because if you've not tried It's Well Cosmetics, I feel like you definitely should and you'll not be disappointed. That's my guarantee. And the yummy mattes in this palette is so very pretty. You can definitely go more pastel-y, but you can also go like deep and grungy with these tones. Oh my god, I cannot stop raving about this palette. That's so very pretty. Okay, now let's talk about another indie brand. Oh my god, this brand has done something else this year and I am I'm here for it, and I'm talking about Glaminatrix Cosmetics. And this is the Sugar and the Spice palette. I wanted to recommend Sugar and Spice for Thanksgiving just because I feel like the other rich romantic palette, which also I am absolutely nuts over for, is more of like a spring palette and a winter palette for me. But this palette is so beautiful for Thanksgiving. They have some beautiful multi-chromes. They have mattes to support the multi-chromes, as well as they have some springy pastel-y shades to amp up the look. But everything, like the quality of the eyeshadow palette is so very beautiful. So very beautiful. I definitely wanted to recommend them. Let me show you a few shades. I mean, we are here, so let's do it. But you should see like how stunning these shades are. They are shifty, they are magical, they're textured, they are dimensional. Like, look at the shift. Look at the shift that's happening. This is stunning. I have a code with Glaminatrix and it is Smithy Sony, and that will save you 10% off on anything on their website. But I would highly recommend their Sugar and Spice palette, their Rich Romantic palette. Actually, anything from Glaminatrix is so nice. Their Into the Night palette, so beautiful, so beautiful. Okay, now let's talk about a mainstream brand, which also I feel like this palette definitely is again the most used palette, one of the most used palette in my collection, and I'm talking about Patricia Rose Dimension palette. Now this can be like an everyday palette for me because I love my rosy tones, but these have some like rich dark browns and burgundies, which absolutely knocks my socks off. And they also have this like warm tone orangey shade. This palette definitely is used and abused in my collection so very much, and I do not doubt recommending this to you guys. I love the cream shadows. I love the powder shadows. I love the mattes. The shimmers are so elegant, so pretty. This is beautiful. If I have to recommend one eyeshadow palette from Patricia, it is going to be the Rose Dimension palette because I use it a ton. Okay, let's dip back into indie brand. I'm going to talk about Adept Cosmetics next. The Heather Austin palette is just so beautiful for Thanksgiving. If you have not tried Heather Austin palette, I mean, okay. This palette is definitely mixed because some of the shadows are not from Heather Austin palette, especially this like purpley matte shade is not from them, and this multi-chrome is not for them. It's from the Minka palette. But everything else is from Heather Austin palette, and I love this palette so very much. I just customized this palette because I use this palette a lot. So I definitely wanted to talk about this. I love the formula of Adept Cosmetics. I cannot wait for their Element 115 to come in the market so that I can buy it, because I am drooling over those swatches. But for Thanksgiving, this is a must-have. Okay, now let's talk about a new palette from SimplyPosh Cosmetics. This palette, oh my god, knocked my socks off. I feel like this is going to be my Thanksgiving palette this year, and this is the Cozy Cabin palette. I do have a code. Actually, I do have a code with Adept Cosmetics also, and that's Smithy Sony. I'll put it on the screen for you guys, but all my codes are in the description box below. I am an affiliate with this brand as well as this brand, but this palette, by far the favorite that the brand has ever created. This is a limited edition palette. If you were eyeing this palette, I would highly recommend this. I have tried like so many palettes from SimplyPosh Cosmetics. This color story is just a mix of warm tones, neutrals, cool tones, like colorful and the eyeshadows are so blendable, so buildable. The shimmers are shifting like crazy on the eyes. So pretty. This is just stunning. This is going to be my Thanksgiving palette for this year. Like, there's no doubt about it, and I'm so excited to play with this even more. I do have 3 looks or 5 looks using this palette on my channel. I'll link it in the iCards above for you guys. Again, I have a code with them, Smithy Sony, to save you 10% off. Okay, now let's talk about Melt Cosmetics. You've heard me talk a lot about this, and this is Gemini 2 palette. I feel like this is like grungy Thanksgiving in a palette. Like, if you love your burgundy tones and your grungy greens, this palette is going to be amazing for you. This is not for a faint of heart. This packs a punch. Like this, you need to love pigmented mattes to love this palette, but I absolutely love Melt Cosmetics formula, especially the Gemini and Gemini 2 palette. I love them so very much, and I wanted to recommend this again. Okay, now let's talk about Gourmand Girls. Gourmand Girls Spooked palette, I feel like you can use it all year around, but for Thanksgiving, this has some amazing tones. Amazing tones. I love the color story of this palette so very much, because one, it is very versatile. You can get tons and tons of look, but it also has some yummy warm tone shades too for Thanksgiving. Like, this quadrant is absolutely amazing. This area is absolutely stunning. I feel like the only shade that I'm a little scared about is this green shade, that glowy green shade, but I know that people love greens. But otherwise, this palette is just perfect for Thanksgiving. I love this palette. I know it's like a spooky theme, but definitely can be used for Thanksgiving for sure. Now let's talk about Bella Beaute Bar, because they did come out with amazing palettes this year. Like, they have knocked the socks down. They have come out with palettes left, right, and center. I have 2 to recommend from their whole collection that they released this year. I have 2, Bejeweled palette, which is the newest release, and the recently Deinfluenced palette, which is their Halloween release. But they have some amazing shades for Thanksgiving. If I just take, I don't even know what to take, because you can definitely wear greens for Thanksgiving too. This area is completely Thanksgiving. I love this palette so very much. The quality is at par excellence with this palette. You get amazing multi-chromes. The shadows are buildable, blendable, so amazing. This orange, oh my god, that has my heart. It's so pretty, so very pretty. I do have a code with Bella Beaute Bar too. It is Smithy Sony, to save you 10% off. But I'm recommending like the top of the top, the creme of the creme to you guys, because I don't want you guys to be disappointed at all. I also did a video recently with the Bejeweled palette. Oh my god, the looks that came out of that palette. It was jaw-dropping. It is amazing. If you love mid-tone, deep tones, like jewel tones, this palette is amazing, and the shimmers are outstanding. I know that the palette looks beautiful in the pan, but when it goes on the eyes, it is so shifty, so magical, so jewel tone. Like, I love, if you want like one jewel tone palette in your collection, this is the palette to go for. Absolutely 100% would recommend this. Okay, now let's talk about the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes, and this is the Fall Magic palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. This again screams Thanksgiving for me, screams fall to me. This is amazing, absolutely amazing. I have done 2 looks using this palette on my channel. This is one of the looks that I created, and I love this palette. If you love pinks, burgundies, purples, and greens, this palette is gonna be amazing. They've done, again, something so special this year with their formula. The mattes are blendable, the shimmers are sparkly but dimensional. It doesn't like fall off throughout the day. It stays on for the extended amount of time. The mattes are so buildable and blendable. It is amazing. And this palette screams Thanksgiving for me. This is the remastered version of their original Fall Magic palette, and I love this. Love this. And last, certainly not the least, the brand that have absolutely knocked my socks off this year, and I'm so glad that I tried them, is Ensley Cosmetics, and I have to recommend the Harvest Moon palette. This palette is just so breathtaking. From the artwork to the shades that is inside the palette, it's just beautiful, like absolutely stunning. Like if you are in need of some special shadows, some holochrome, some duochrome, some multichromes with grungy, deep, muted mattes, look no further. Try Ensley Cosmetics, especially their Harvest Moon palette. I have their Twisted Tea Party palette, Lands of Enchantment palette, Harvest Moon palette. All three of the palettes have freaking knocked my socks off. Like this is stunning to another level. I have a code with Ensley to save you some money, and you do need to use a code because these palettes are a little bit of expensive, but these are some special shadows. These pans are magnetic, so you can move the shades here and there, which is another plus point in my opinion. But I know everybody cannot afford like an $88, $89 palette. But again, this is full of some special shadows. Use my code Smithy Sony to save you 10% off. I think that would knock down a good chunk of money out of the palette. But this is amazing. Let me show you a few swatches. This sparkling cider that looks like nothing in the pan. Ghost Moon, and let me show you one holochrome too. It's so pretty. Let's do this Tombstone, which is like an orange. Let's see. Such a beautiful shade. Oh my god. Okay. Should I use this or should I use the Cozy Cabin palette for my Thanksgiving? Oh my god. This gives me feelings like no other. No other. This is gonna rank up high in the ranking for this year, without a doubt. But I actually do not even know which one I like more, the Twisted Tea Party, Lands of Enchantment palette or the Harvest Moon palette, because all of them have a different vibe to it. But they are so special, so special. If you like a color story from Ensley Cosmetics, you have to take that plunge. It's so amazingly, breathtakingly beautiful, magical. I have no words for them. Absolutely no words. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the eyeshadow palette recommendations that I did for Thanksgiving. If you did like this video, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.